Chavach, the story of the Baal Shem Tov, um, that was shared in different versions. I'm going to share the way this story was just told at the conference of the Shluchis. Every year, all the Chabad female emissaries gather in New York by the Rebbe, and someone shared the story this way. One Saturday night after Shabbos, the Baal Shem Tov made Havdalah, and the this lady walks in. She runs into the shul. She's all upset, and she says that her daughter needs to find the shidduch. And how could her daughter find the shidduch when she has no money? It was customary in those days to provide a nedunya, to provide some kind of nadin, some kind of a dowry for a girl looking for a shidduch. But since she was so poor, she says my daughter needs to find her soulmate, and she'll never find a soulmate because no one will want to marry her without me offering a substantial dowry. So Baal Shem Tov had just finished Havdalah, and of course no one had any money on them. But Baal Shem Tov asked his students to reach into their pockets and to give her a coin. So they reach in their pockets, and miraculously they find the coins in their pockets, and they all give the money, and the money is substantial and it's enough for her to have a dowry for her daughter. That's a story of the Baal Shem Tov. So the Mezritcher Maggid shared this story, and he asked the students, what's the lesson that we learn from the story? One student said, the lesson is the miracles of Baal Shem Tov. I mean, it's right after Shabbos. Obviously, no one will be carrying any money. And yet, a miracle happens, and they find money in their pockets out of nowhere. The Mezritcher Maggid said, that's not an incredible story. Baal Shem Tov did miracles like this all the time. That's not the lesson of the story. Another student said, lesson of the story is the love and the care and the kindness of the Baal Shem Tov. Here was a mitzvah to be done. This lady needed to find an adunya. She needed money for her daughter. And the Baal Shem Tov could have put his hand into his own pocket and given the money all himself. Baal Shem Tov wanted everyone to participate, and therefore the Baal Shem Tov let everyone be part of this instead of him just doing this himself. So Mezritcher Maggid said that's not the lesson of the story. Baal Shem Tov's love for every Jew, of course, we know about that. What's the lesson of the story? Said the Mezritcher Maggid. Lesson of the story is that the Baal Shem Tov asked his students to put their hands in their pockets. And instead of his students questioning, how in the world will we have money on us? We know we don't have money on us. They all put their hands in their pockets, and they all wanted to help. They all put their hand out. And with their love and for their fellow Jew and their faith in their Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov, they found a way to help this unfortunate woman. That's the message. The miracle isn't the discovery of the coins. The miracle is that the Chassidim put their hands in their pockets and they made an effort even though it was impossible. On that note, I wanted to share with you a few stories about the special segula, special spirit. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened. Rabbi Reichik said, this is how the story is printed in the Kfar Chabad magazines. There is, he said that there was a woman who needed a blessing for children, And she went to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said that she should start learning Rambam. She should start learning Rambam herself. This will be a blessing for her to be blessed with a child. So she started to learn Rambam, and she was blessed with a child. So Rabbi Reichik asked the Rebbe, is this something that he could publicize? And the Rebbe responded, the Rambam was a doctor for all the Jewish people, and therefore this is not just something that happened to this particular person. This is something you could publicize. If a person is a miracle, they should study Rambam. According to another version of the way the story was told, the Rebbe said that the word Rambam stands for the words Revois Meivsei B'Eretz Mitzrayim, tremendous miracles that happened in the land of Egypt, and therefore this is a way to bring miracles down. The miracle of the study of the Rambam is not only a miracle that through studying Rambam it channels Hashem's miraculous blessing, but it's also a miracle in the way that Hasidim and the way Jews around the world are attached to this study, which just began this past Wednesday. Rabbi Shmuel Lu was here this week. He shared the following story. He said that Rabbi Kunin was visiting New York shortly after the Rebbe began this campaign that everyone should start learning for sure. Rabbi Kunin is so busy, he for sure wouldn't have the time to study Rambam. So he asked Rabbi Kunin, do you study Rambam? The three chapters, like the Rebbe instructed, do you one chapter? And Rabbi Kunin responded, of course it does three chapters. In fact, he said, this past Friday night, I didn't know which chapters they were. I knew it was in the section of Maimonides discussing the laws of prayer. And so I didn't know which chapters they were, and I couldn't figure it out. So I did all the chapters of the entire section of prayer in order to make sure that I fulfilled the Rebbe's instruction of studying Rambam. Um, the previous Rebbe spoke about how in the Maimer Basilagani, he spoke about how there's special strength that is given to us to fulfill Hashem's will, making the world a home for Hashem. And just like in a war, in time of war, the king gives away all of his treasures in order to win the war, so too Hashem gives us, the soldiers of Hashem, who need to finish the task and bring Mashiach, gives us special strength. And the way Hashem gives us his strength is by fulfilling the instruction of the tzaddikim of every generation. They're the ones who are the generals who give us the treasures. So it's not like we're doing a favor to anyone by learning Rambam. It's more like there's a channel through which Hashem sends special blessings. And I think I mentioned last week that the word disease in Hebrew is numerically equivalent to 83 and 83 sections in the study of the Rambam. And so that is a blessing to be protected from all kinds of disease. Rabbi Mordechai Farkash, that was emissary in Bellevue, Washington, he shared how he was going through a bit of a financial crisis. And just like our community did this charity campaign this week, Baruch Hashem, with miraculous success, his community wanted to make one for his community as well. But the way it works in these campaigns is that half the money is given through matchers, and the other half is given through crowdfunding. The problem was he didn't have any matchers. And so he was trying to find people that would go the extra mile for him and be matcher, but everyone was saying no. And he remembered how the Rebbe once said to someone who was having a financial crisis that he should study the Rambam, and the Rebbe said, eliminate your debts in your studies of Rambam, and then Hashem will take away your financial debts. So he had an accounting of all the chapters of Rambam that he had missed, and it was Thanksgiving. He had some time off from his regular classes and work, and he sat down and he spent hours and hours learning Rambam. And that night, after he finished his Rambam, he's texted two different people, and the first person answered right away that they would give a smaller amount of what he needed, and the next person, the next morning, texted him, what do you need exactly? And he called him, and basically the other guy is like, I'm going to give whatever is missing for this campaign. So he attributed this, of course, to his completion of his debt in the study of Rambam, and Baruch Hashem, Hashem opened the doors for his successful campaign. This this idea of a Jew going beyond limitation to fulfill the will of Hashem, um, and channeling blessing down. It reminds me of a story the Alter Rebbe, not so relevant, but the geschmack, interesting story nonetheless. The Alter Rebbe married the daughter of one of the greatest philanthropists in of Vitebsk. His name was Rabbi Yehuda Leib Segel. Yehuda Leib Segel was not a fan of his new son-in-law, especially the Alter Rebbe's ways were very different to the Torah scholars of his time. The Alter Rebbe would spend a long time praying, and so instead of him coming home for dinner with his father-in-law and his wife, he finished later. So Yehuda Leib, he decided uh, to put only a little bit of oil in the lamp, and so that way, when the Alter Rebbe came back, it was dark. And further, Yehuda Leib hid the wine, so there's no way for the Alter Rebbe to make kiddush. So the Alter Rebbe and his wife, Rebbe Sternna, they looked through their small home to find something to make kiddush on, and they found in the home a bottle of vodka, but there's no cups. What should they do? So they found in the corner of the home a large kneading bowl. And the Alter Rebbe examined the kneading bowl and they determined that this kneading bowl was kosher to be used for a cup. If you don't have a cup, you can use a kneading bowl because there are halachic requirements of what is allowed to use for a kiddush cup and what is not allowed to be used for a kiddush cup. So Alter Rebbe made kiddush on the vodka that was in this. They had a challah. The Alter Rebbe did not want to make kiddush on challah. He made kiddush on the vodka. He poured, and the Alter Rebbe didn't want, technically according to halacha, it's sufficient just to drink a revius, a small amount, 86 grams of vodka, but would have been enough. But the Alter Rebbe was careful to drink the majority of the cup, and here the cup was an eating bowl. So the Alter Rebbe had to drink this entire, more than half of the eating bowl to fulfill his custom of doing kiddush. And despite the fact that it was dark, and despite the fact that Alter Rebbe just consumed such a large amount of vodka, the Alter Rebbe remained awake the entire night studying Torah. And the next day, his father-in-law asked his daughter, "So what'd you guys do?" So she said, "I'm sure he slept the night." And she said, "No, he was up learning all night." So if that's the case, something special going on with this young man. And that's how his father-in-law did gain some respect for his son-in-law, the Alter Rebbe. The Baal Haflah, Pinchas Levi Horowitz, was a great Torah genius, and he originally did not come from a Hasidic background, but on one of his travels, he was a prominent rabbi whose advice was sought for all kinds of halachic disputes. He was heading towards a city called Yarampol. On the way to Yarampol, he passed through Ravna. Ravna was where the Mizitcha Maggid was living at the time. And he decided he is going to visit Mizitcha Maggid and to see if this man is as great as they say he is. He visits with Mizitcha Maggid, and he tells the Mizitcha Maggid his question that he's going to be analyzing in this court case that he has. And Mizitcha Maggid says something completely unrelated. At one point, another point, and this the Baal Haflah by Pinchas Horowitz decided there's no Torah here, there's no greatness here, and he proceeds to leave. Before he proceeds to leave, the Mizitcha Maggid tells it, the Baal Haflah, he says, "Listen, I have a student over there outside by the fireplace. His name is Abzusha. I think it'll be worthwhile for you to talk to him. He may be able to help you." He goes to the fireplace and he speaks to Abzusha. Abzusha he says, the Mizitcha Maggid told you to ask me a question about the Talmudic passage you're learning. I don't know why, but let me tell you a question I have about the passage that I'm learning. Abzusha said, I'm learning now the Gemara in Brachas, which talks about the laws of a minyan. And it says that in order for there to be a recital of Davar Shebekdush, in order to recite what halacha determines to be called as something that is holy, you have to have 10 men. Otherwise, you can't recite this Davar Shebekdush. You can't say Kedusha, you can't say Kaddish, you can say Baruch Hu. So the Reb Zusha said, Reb Huna says, what about including the ark? If you have 9 people and the ark, can the ark possibly be included as one of the 10 men? So Reb Huna right away retorts, "V'chi Aaron Adamu, is the ark a man, and therefore the ark is not kosher to be part of the 10 men." So the Bezushas told Reb Pinchas, "What's the question? Of course, the ark is not a man. The ark is not a man. The ark. What's the question?" But you'd think that since the ark, this wooden ark, has inside it a Torah, so if a person has Torah inside of him, and the ark has Torah inside of it, what's the difference? Maybe the ark could be considered like a person. But no, said Reb Zusha, the ark is made of wood, and the wood and the Torah inside the ark don't interact at all. The ark is in one place, and the Torah is in another place. So it's possible, said Reb Zusha to Reb Pinchas, for a person to be in one place and Torah to be somewhere else, and for them not to connect at all. And the way he spoke really inspired Reb Pinchas to realize it's possible to be really erudite and really to be very knowledgeable in Torah, and yet, although you're so knowledgeable, the Torah doesn't penetrate you. The Torah doesn't impress you. The Torah doesn't elevate you. And because of this, Reb Pinchas returned to Mezritch Magid, and he became a chassid of the Mezritch Magid. And that's why in the works of the Baal HaFla, there are a lot of Hasidic, his halachic works, his understanding of Talmud, could see is illuminated a little bit by the teaching of Hasidus. A lot, actually. On that note, on another occasion, Reb Pinchas was visited Mezritch Magid, and a woman came to him to ask a question about a chicken, is chicken kosher? So Mezritch Magid explained, according to the Machaber, the halacha is like this. According to the Ramah, the halacha is like this. According to the Taz, the halacha is like this. According to the Rav Moshe Cordovero, the great Kabbalist, the halacha is like this. According to the Arizal, another Kabbalist, the halacha is like this. So he explained to the Baal HaFla that through Kabbalah and Chassidus, he was wondering, you're making halachic rulings based according to Kabbalah, and he explained that through Kabbalah you get a deeper understanding of halacha. On that note, connecting to the Rambam, there was a great Torah genius who wanted to, similar to the Baal HaFla, he visited a mayor of Premishlan, who was a great Hasidic Rebbe. He also was wondering, this Hasidic Rebbe, Dr. Snaf, is he really worthy of the ardor that he receives? People are so much respect. So who is this guy? So he asked him, Meir, a question in the Rambam. Explain to me the Rambam. This question in the Rambam, it was a deep question from this great Torah genius. And the mayor said, I don't know the answer. However, the mayor said to this man, when Meir goes into the mikveh in the morning, when he goes to immerse himself in the mikveh, the mayor visits the chamber of the Rambam. And when the mayor visits the chamber of the Rambam, he could ask the Rambam the meaning of what this passage means. All right. The next day, he comes back to the mayor. No, Mayor, do you have the answer for me? The mayor says, yeah, this is the answer. So this Torah genius was very impressed. He says, that when a mayor goes in the mikveh, he goes to the chamber of the Rambam, I don't believe. I don't believe it. I just can't believe it. However, such an explanation that a mayor said, only the Rambam could say that. That I know. Only the Rambam could say the explanation that the mayor said. So he wasn't ready to accept that the mayor, he wasn't ready to accept that the mayor goes to the chamber of the Rambam, but he knew that only such an explanation only the Rambam could say. So just like in the story of the Alter Rebbe with his sacrifice for making Kiddush that Friday night, that's a story of a tzaddik or a Rebbe. I want to share with you a story of a chassid on how a chassid is dedicated to study the Rambam. This story was shared by Rabbi Yaakov Landau, the Chief Rabbi Nebrak, his grandson, um, Rabbi Yosef Landau. I'm sorry, his son Rabbi Yosef Landau shared a story about his grandfather, Moshe Yehuda Leib Landau. It was Yom Kippur, and Rabbi Moshe Yehuda Leib was then 92 years old. Yom Kippur is over. Moshe Yehuda Leib makes Havdalah, and his son Rabbi Yaakov wanted to bring his father a glass of coffee after the fast. But his father left the living room and the dining room, and he went into his office and he opened up the Rambam. And his son says, "Dad, what are you doing? I mean, you need to eat something, you need to drink something just for fasting. What are you doing now?" So his father said, or Meshud Leib said, "If I eat or I drink right now, I'm going to fall asleep. If I fall asleep now, I'm not gonna, and I'll be missing the Rambam for today. I don't want to fall asleep without Rambam, and therefore I'm going to first do Rambam, and only then will I eat and drink." Can you imagine? He's 92 years old, and he just fasted. But that's how important it was to him not to miss a day of the Rambam. Similar note, Rabbi Shaul Landau, the son-in-law of Rapinya Korf, Olav Shalom, he said that when Rapinya, 2 weeks before he passed away, Rapinya wanted, he's so weak in the hospital, someone should share with him, someone should teach him, someone read to him, read to the Rambam. Um, the Rabbi Shaul of Rizhin, he would at times not want people to come in to speak to him, ask from different questions, different blessings. He wanted sometimes to close the door, not to entertain people. But there was a group of people that uh, wanted his blessing and advice. They're going into a serious business venture, and they bribed the gabbai, the attendant of the Rishon, the Rabbi B'Sol Rishon, that they should see him. So the gabbai didn't want to violate the Rebbe's words. They were very serious about seeing the Rebbe, and this time he wasn't seeing anyone. So he told them how to get in to see the Rebbe through a side door. They went in through the side door. The Rebbe Rishon gave them a blessing, and he said after they left, he chastised his Gabbai's attendants, says, "You don't understand. In order for me to give advice to someone, I first pray to Hashem, and I first work on myself, so I should see goodness in another person. And so when these people came in, I hadn't prepared myself sufficiently. And that's why I needed time for myself to prepare myself. All I saw was horse heads. That's it. All I saw was horse heads." Ray Greenglass, Al Shalom, he shared this story. He said the Drizhner Rebbe himself had to prepare himself to see good in people, and therefore he didn't want to see them until he was ready, because otherwise he just sees what they're into. He sees what they're engaged in, and he doesn't see their goodness. Conversely, one more story. There's a chassid named Rabbi Tannenhaus, an emissary of the Rebbe, and his father was feeling very lonely, and Rabbi Greenglass shared this story. He said that his father um, was living in New Jersey, and he's doing this, also an emissary of the Rebbe, feeling very lonely about his position there. And he told Rabbi Greenglass, probably the Rebbe thinks a lot about the Hasidim in New York, who see him all often, and the Hasidim in Montreal, who also see him pretty often, that they travel from Montreal to visit New York. But me over here, stuck on doing this mission over here in New Jersey, I don't have a chance to visit the Rebbe as often as I like. He probably doesn't think about me that often. That's what Rabbi Tannenhaus said to Rabbi Greenglass. Rabbi Greenglass visited the Rebbe, and he shared with the Rebbe what Rabbi Tannenhaus had said. The Rebbe remarked to Rabbi Greenglass, "Tell him, I think about him more than he thinks about himself. Tell him I think about him more than he thinks about himself." Of course, we always think about ourselves. But the Rebbe thinks about a Jew even more than a Jew thinks about himself. That's what the Rebbe told Rabbi Greenglass told this particular chassid. Rabbi Reitchik, Olav Shalom, Rabbi Reitchik, Rabbi Shimon Reitchik would often share how a chassid once came to Rebbe Rashab He told the Rebbe Rashab, I'm blessing that the Rebbe should think about me and pray for me. The Rebbe Rashab responded, have me in your heart, and I will have you in my thoughts. I will pray for you. Have me in your heart. Have me in your heart, and I'll have you in my thoughts. So one of the best ways to have the Rebbe in our heart is to fill the Rebbe's request to study Rambam daily. Take some time, but there's a regimen of study for everyone. 3 chapters, 1 chapter, or the midst of the day. It's a very good way to have the Rebbe in our heart, and thereby also that we are in the Rebbe's thoughts in prayer. The Rebbe once remarked that the Rambam is called the guide for the perplexed. And so the Rebbe said a woman who is in need of the guidance from Hashem, she studies Rambam, and that's the way she receives guidance from Hashem in her life, what she needs to do. So today is the first day we're actually studying the first 3 chapters of the entire book of the Rambam. So it's a great time to begin, and it's a skula, it's a spiritual remedy for blessings, for a shidduch, for children, and for parnasa, for financial income. And we may not need to drink an entire kneading bowl of vodka to do this, but may be difficult in other ways, but it's definitely a way to channel Revois Meivsai, the miracles of Hashem, for us at these last moments of Golus. May we see the Rambam, and this week is the Yahrzeit Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka. Just concluded one short story of Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka. Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka was once suffering from a health issue, and someone asked her, everyone asked the Rebbe for a blessing. Why don't you ask the Rebbe for a blessing? You're the Rebbe's wife. And she said, I don't want to share this with the Rebbe. I don't want to cause the Rebbe suffering. But we all want to cause the Rebbe nachas ruach, pleasure and happiness and nachas the Rebbe. A great way to do that is to take on the study of the Rambam, which brings down the blessings of the Rebbe for all good things. Main blessing is the coming of Mashiach Tzidkeinu Kara Mamish. A good Tevach, Rebbe, Rebbe,